Welcome. My name is Mike Distilio, and I am the Director of Registration, Data Technology, and Community Outreach. So I'm using my community outreach role today, and this will be one of our episodes for the We Are Township Leadership Podcast. So I'm very proud to be here. I've recorded a couple others recently. However, being here is very special for obvious reasons, being the former principal at Bunker Hill and meeting James for the first time, knowing you two for the first time. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce, we have Ms. Kerfoot here, who is a school counselor for our 8th grade students, also a cheerleading coach at the high school, also former French teacher here as well in the district. But I'd like you to introduce Ms. Kerfoot, all of our leaders, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so I have Sydney Ronsayro. Sydney is a member of my Bulldog Ambassadors. She also, I think, is just a standout leader in the school. She always does the right thing, and she stands up for others, so that's why I have her here. She's very involved in a lot of activities here at the school. And then I have Emma, who is also one of my Bulldog Ambassadors, and I did pick 3 Bulldog Ambassadors because that's the club that I run here. Emma is just a good role model in every way that you can be. She works really hard on her studies, she's involved, and I think she just always leads by example. And then I have James, and James is new to us this year. And what stood out to me about James is when I first met him, he wanted to be a member of the Bulldog Ambassadors as soon as he got here. He's like, what do I need to do to be an ambassador? And even though he was new, he was super interested in getting involved and, being a part of the student body and helping others. And actually, he's been a key person for me to reach out to when new students start to help them, throughout the school. So I just think these are 3 of my Bulldog Ambassadors, and they're just, wonderful students. And that's why I picked the 3 of them to be here today.
Thank you. So off camera, I talked about how, this is really important that you guys are picked by Ms. Kerfoot because, as a former leader of Bunker Hill, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of kids and a lot of staff members. And there's a wonderful amount of staff members here that I would consider leaders. But I had to pick 3, and one of them was Ms. Kerfoot. So I'm going to embarrass Ms. Kerfoot since she just embarrassed you guys a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about her. So Ms. Kerfoot spent a long time as a French teacher, and I didn't know Ms. Kerfoot until she applied for the counseling job maybe, 5 years ago? 6 years ago?
This is my 6th year, yeah.
Okay. So our former, James, you don't know him, our former assistant principal here, Dr. Maselli, you guys know him. He knew Ms. Kerfoot, and we were sitting in on an interview, and I didn't know she was great. She did great in the interview, and she got the job. And but what I came to learn real fast about Ms. Kerfoot is that she is one of the hardest workers I've ever met in my life. Sometimes I have to save her from herself because she works too hard. I thought I worked hard, but Ms. Kerfoot's next level. So everything she does, whether it's 12 o'clock in the morning, whether it's during the school day, she always puts kids first. And I see that not only as a counselor, but I see that in the sport you coach with cheerleading. It's just, it's amazing how it's as if you're cloned and you're there for all kids. And it's just, it's extraordinary. And you do the hard work when nobody else wants to do it. So for that reason, I appreciate you, and I find you to be an exceptional leader. So
Thank you, Mr. Distilio.
You're welcome. No problem. So, part of this was to kind of spread news to the community about the 3 of you, Ms. Kerfoot, and wanted to make sure that you guys kind of understood and kind of talked to the community about what it is like to be a leader. So, we talked about daring leadership, okay? In the podcast that's coming out today, from the high school, I talked to Miss Mason, and it's about daring leadership. And daring leadership is about doing the right thing, even though some people might not like it. Maybe it's not going to be a popular decision, but ethically doing the right thing all the time, right? So sometimes the leader has to put themselves out there, even despite the fact that it might, not go well, because they have to do that because it's the right thing to do. So I'll lob it to Sydney to start off. I've seen you do that. I've seen you, like Miss Kerfoot would say, stick up for peers and stuff. I think that's kind of how you're wired. You know, can you kind of talk about that and why you find that purpose to do that?
Well, I just like find it like if like someone's like not like able to do it, like you should be able to stand up for them, like because like you don't know if they're like what's going on with their like personal life, if they're like scared that like our parents gonna find out, or like they're gonna like bullied in school for it. So like someone just like needs to like step up and help.
Why do you feel that it's you?
Well, like I just feel like since like even if I'm like not necessarily close to them, I still have to like help them.
Very good, very good. So one of the things I know about Emma is the fact that was it seventh grade, early seventh grade year, you were emailing me constantly
Yes.
about what was it, humanities,
Humanities.
right? And we look back at your grades, and sometimes when there's a rule that gets in the way of a child being a success, it's probably a bad rule, right? So you were advocating for not only yourself, but for other people who are in your same realm that, you work hard, you have the grades, you have all the criteria now to be selected into that program, and why aren't you? And so one of the things I admired was you were pretty relentless in that, in a good way. I know relentless sounds like a bad word sometimes, but you asked for clarification, and as a leader, I have to provide that clarification for you, and I have to justify it. And if I can't justify it, then I have to listen. Even though you were 13 at the time, I had to listen to you because, frankly, you were right. So I'd like to know what gave you the courage to go to Miss Kerfoot and say, I want to be in this class. Go to Mr. Prasad. I want to be in this class, and ultimately have the courage to talk to the principal and ask for me to consider that. I'm intrigued about that. Always have been.
I've always been really focused on my grades and my studies, and I felt like I wasn't challenged enough, and I wanted to be challenged. And I was nervous to reach out to you specifically, but I knew that that was the only way that anything would change, so I knew I had to.
And in doing so, you kind of changed the trajectory for a lot. I don't know if you realize that, but changed the trajectory for a lot of other kids that were in your same boat. I don't know if you realize that, but
No,
you
I
certainly did. So how do you also, champion causes at Bunker Hill? Like, what do you like to do as well for the school?
I always like to include everyone and make sure that everyone is heard when there's something going on in a class and somebody might be quiet and not getting their opinion, and I always try my best to ask them so that everyone has a say.
Nice. James, tell me about yourself. Like how, it was courageous to go to Miss Kerfoot and say, I want to be part of Bulldog Ambassadors. You were probably here for 5 minutes and then wanted to be a Bulldog Ambassador. So that's courageous, that's daring. You've decided, I know it's my first year at Bunker Hill. It's very difficult to be an 8th grader in a middle school and a new school. That's incredibly difficult, yet you're navigating it. Tell me how you're doing that. Tell me more about you.
I wanted to be more involved with the school. I wanted to be able to connect with different kinds of people and to have multiple opportunities to learn new things.
Outstanding. What's your previous school?
My old school was Williamtown Middle School.
Okay. Were you involved there as well?
Good enough. I had gotten invited to the National Junior Honor Society at my old school, but I didn't meet the requirements, so I had to turn that down.
Okay. Well, glad you're here, man. It's great. One of the things, there's kind of two more questions I want to ponder. We constantly talk about, and I guess we still talk about what it means to be a Bulldog, right? So there are the signs all over the place. I don't see one here right now, but there were 2 reasons why we're Bulldogs. That the gist of it, and I could go into the paragraph long thing, the gist of it was that everybody that comes into Bunker Hill needs to feel a sense of respect, a sense of value, no matter what their background is, no matter what their religion is, no matter what their preferences are. Everybody deserves to feel valued. And the second one is that it's very simple. A life of purpose is rooted in the service of others. So those two things kind of go hand in hand a little bit. I'm going to let Ms. Kerfoot start and then talk about kind of how she does that in her line of work or as a person here. And then you can choose one of them and we'll go from there and
Okay.
we can talk.
Well, I learned from the best, Mr. Distilio. I mean, I have to give him his shout out
you.
because he was, an incredible boss and leader when he was here. And he's still my boss, just over at Central Administration now. But I do believe in, working for others. I do believe that I always try to take in everyone's perspective and see how they feel and make sure that, although it may not be the most popular decision, that we're doing what we best can do to help everyone. And I know that's why I like to be so involved with all the students here. It's why I still coach and run a club. I think that, the influence as a counselor and as a leader in the schools is important going beyond the school day. And that's why I like being involved in the other organizations and encouraging students just to be their best selves. I just always want them to realize how wonderful they are and all that they can achieve in their lives. So that's why I like to kind of be involved with all different things. I think that all of them, truly kind of show the principles of what it is to be a bulldog. I don't even know who to start with, but I'm just going to start with Sydney because she was the first one to talk. So I'm going to let her, kind of go again. So what does it mean to you to be a bulldog?
For me, it means to be like a responsible and like help everyone like that needs help, or like just like stand up and like be able to like communicate for people.
Okay. How about Emma or James? Is there anything like what does it mean to you to be a bulldog?
For me, it means to help others when they need help, to be kind, and to include others when they are feeling lonely, or give help for people.
To me, it means to not be afraid to stand up for what you believe is right, whether it's standing up for somebody else or standing up for something that you believe in. You shouldn't be afraid to do that.
So you guys are already ahead of the game in way more ways than you realize. So typically in a middle school, kids based on their age, we can talk about a school in Wisconsin, we can talk about Williamstown, we can talk about all the schools in our district, but inherently there's only a select group of people that understand that at an early age. It's actually abnormal to think the way you guys do as middle school kids, because that's an adult thing that comes with having lived experiences. So one of the things that happens is that you guys already have it. So what leads me, there's no question when we're old and gray and have canes and stuff like this, there's no question that you guys are going to be the future leaders, whether it's some nonprofit philanthropic thing that you're going to do, whether it's some CEO of a corporation, maybe you own your own business. Either way, there's no question in my mind that all three of you are going to be doing something in a helping profession. I feel like Ms. Kerfoot and I are in helping professions. Our business is people. And I think you guys are probably all going to follow that same suit. Not necessarily be educators, but do something, Very proud of you guys. So there's another pre-planned question we're going to talk about. And then I'm going to throw you guys a curveball and ask you a question that you weren't prepared for, but I think you'll be okay. All right? So I listen to this podcast, and it's called Human Capital Leadership, and we all listen to podcasts or something, watch YouTube shorts and videos and whatnot. But there's one episode that talked about the 6 principles of ethical leadership, and I talked about it off camera, and they are accountability, courage, character and integrity, empathy, resilience, and self-awareness. I'll read it again for you guys. Accountability, courage, character and integrity, empathy, resilience, and self-awareness. I want to know kind of, Ms. Kerfoot doesn't have to answer this, but I want the 3 kids to answer this. Of the 6, which one of those 6 do you most identify with?
Integrity.
Okay.
Because it's extremely important to, even though somebody's not watching, you always have to be doing the right thing.
100%. Absolutely. Which one, guys?
I feel like empathy for me, because you should always be nice to somebody and kind, because you never know what somebody's going through.
Very good.
I would say self-accountability, because you have to be able to stand up for yourself, like in needs where like someone can't stand up for yourself.
Beautiful. And I like how you guys all picked 3 different things, that's wonderful. So we're about to close here, but there's one question I want to ask, and I asked it in some podcasts, not all, but we have some time, so I wanted to ask this. So your leadership, your commitment to school, your commitment to others doesn't happen by accident. Ms. Kerfoot's thing, what she does as far as her leadership, her involvement in cheerleading, her involvement in Bulldog Ambassadors, her excellence as a school counselor doesn't happen by accident. It's not taking anything away from each of you and the hard work you do, but there's always somebody along the way that has told you this is the way to do it. This is my inspiration and stuff like that. So for me, it was my grandfather, and he passed away probably 18, 19 years ago now. But that's still pretty raw to me. It doesn't matter how old you are. If somebody you love dies, it's still painful, So, he worked very hard. He was a guy that worked in a factory with asbestos, but he had to because he needed the money for his family. He worked in the coal mines in Pennsylvania, so you can understand if he's working in those environments, his breathing wasn't all that good as he aged. But, he always taught me about the importance of respect and hard work. And my other grandfather was a master stonemason, and he built a lot of buildings in Connecticut. And, he made sure that he told me that when you do your work, you want to make sure your work lasts and speaks for you, So, he would never build a crooked chimney, because he would know that, when he passed away, that chimney would still be there and it would still talk about him. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the value I learned. So my grandparents were that influence in me and helping me develop into who I am. So Ms. Kerfoot, who is the person in your life that kind of set you on this path to be here?
Well, I can't pick one. I have to pick 2. I would say my grandmother and my mom.
Okay.
Both of my grandmother, she was a stay-at-home mom for 4 kids.
Wow.
And then after she had her 4 children and raised them, she went back, became an elementary school teacher, became a principal, and then became a superintendent.
Wow.
And I just think, one, at the time, she's almost 90 now, but at the time that was unheard of, to kind of go back later in life and continue to educate yourself. And she was a superintendent of a small school district, but I just thought that was incredible. And she's so well put together, and she's more at 87 years old, she's more on top of everything in her life than anyone I know. And I just think that's incredible. She's very sharp, and I just, really respect her. And then my mom, she's a nurse. She's an oncology nurse, so she works with cancer patients. She's been giving chemotherapy she'll never retire for, I don't even want to say how many years she's been working, but she just gives her all to her patients, and she was the best mom to me, and she would do anything for us. And I just think seeing those strong female caring role models in my life just always taught me to have kind of that same work ethic, but to care, but to love your family, and you know what I mean, and to work, but also realize that your priorities can be you can work for others, but also have a happy and balanced home life too. And I just think I've always strived to do that, and I'm lucky to have those role models in my life.
Thank you.
Well, I don't really want to say this person, but I feel like I kind of have to, and it's my sister.
Okay. You don't want to say it.
I like the honesty.
Yeah, that's great.
I've always had to follow after her footsteps, but now that I realize it, she's been setting me up for success in my whole life. If it's from cheerleading or even just my school and my studies, like she's always like find a way to like help me like learn like to do what I want to do.
That's nice that you said that. Emma?
It's very tough to pick just one, but my parents, they always push me to do my best, but they make sure I know that it's okay to sometimes not be perfect. And my mom, she's a teacher and she works so hard. And my dad, he always does whatever he can to make sure he can give me and my sister the best. And I admire them so much.
It's very nice.
For me, it's my dad. He's always been encouraging me to do better all the time. He has basically instilled me to do the best and only that. He's always helped me whenever I needed help. He's taught me things that I've never known before, and I just really appreciate what he's done.
Thank you. So the next challenge then moving forward once we close out this podcast is it's very important that you go to that person and you tell them how you feel about them. You know, that might be difficult to go and do that, but I think it makes somebody feel valued. And if you're going to continue the Bunker Hill ideals outside of the classroom, outside of these walls, to tell those people how much you mean. Like I would even challenge Miss Kerfoot. Your grandma's 90, right? You gotta talk to her.
Oh, I talk to her quite often.
And I know you do. You know, so but like you don't want to wait till somebody turns 90 because you don't know what will happen eventually, right? So if you have the opportunity, take the time to tell the person how much they mean, how much you love them. You know. All right. That's kind of the conclusion of our podcast. I'm very proud of you guys for being here. It was great to reconnect with all of my old friends and learn more about James and stuff. And very, very proud of you guys. I'm very proud of the people you've come to be. So I wish you all the best in high school as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, you did a great job.